Welcome back to Griff Guide Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Griffin. Today I have our good friend Brendan here with us, and he is the CEO, president.
President of WinSupply Wakefield. We can dive into that a little bit
Yeah,
more.
we'll dive into that at some point.
Yeah.
So, Brendan, where you're not from this area, correct? Well, you are. What, New York, right? Originally?
Yeah, originally I'm from like the Poughkeepsie area of New York, which is about 2 hours north of New York City.
Is it like town. Mountainous up there, or is it?
It's kind of farmlandy.
Okay.
Parts of it.
Okay.
The
cool.
town I grew up in, there was a few farms. It started getting more and more populated as the 80s. There was a big boom with IBM there. That's what brought my father there. People weren't really commuting to New York City so much from that area, but it's about halfway between New York City and Albany.
Okay.
Along the Hudson River. It's a pretty area. I haven't lived there since I was 18, so it's been a little over 20 years.
Public school kid, or did you go to private school?
I went to public school until I was in 7th grade, and then I went to Catholic school. I went to Catholic 7th, 8th, and then high school, the local Catholic high school I went to. I didn't get into trouble as a kid. I got into a little bit of trouble. I never like not concerning, but I think enough to where my parents wanted a little bit more structure in my life.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
How about yourself? Were you a public school?
Yeah, public school kid. Well, no. So it's funny you say that. So I went to Catholic school until the 4th grade. Then my parents flipped me over to public, which I wish they had never done that, because all the kids that I know, for whatever reason, whether or not they acted like complete degenerates going to a Catholic high school or they were like straight A students, for some reason, I don't know what it is, like I feel like they always become wildly successful, which is like a weird thing. It's like my own theory that I have. Every kid that I've ever interviewed or talked to that's like, oh yeah, I went to Catholic high school, they're doing very well for themselves. I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the structure of it, and it's a little bit more, I'd say it's a little bit more militant than your average high school, obviously, and there's more expectation put in front of you.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've never thought about. I have friends from that public high school still that I keep in touch with. That public high school that I would have went to.
Yeah,
who all do very well. Leading successful lives. I don't know. I think it's more common probably in a Catholic school setting that more parents probably think alike. There's probably more commonality in the parenting, which is why they elected to send their kids to Catholic school.
That makes sense.
I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it was definitely. I didn't perform particularly well in high school. I was really focused on just playing sports, and that's what I wanted to do.
What sports did you play?
I played football and baseball. I played football and baseball all the way into college, and but yeah, that's really all I wanted to do.
Were you a running back?
In high school, I was.
That makes a lot of sense.
In college, I played safety.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you like thinner in college? Or you were like a brick shithouse in college?
I was probably 20 pounds thinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because you look like a running back. You're built like a running back, so that makes sense.
Once you get to college, it's just faster. And I wasn't a great running back. I was a decent running back, but I just love sports. That's really all I wanted to do. Even as a kid, that's all I wanted to do.
No kidding. Well, you got all the way to college and you played sports in college, so that's pretty impressive. Where'd you go to college?
I went to a small school. It's actually, I think it's fairly popular in New England. I went to Norwich in Vermont.
Oh yeah, okay. I think my cousin is going. My cousin actually just applied there, and she's going there. She's from Texas too, which is weird.
They've done a good job over the last few years of expanding their name outside of the Northeast.
No kidding. Oh, that makes sense.
Athletically, we did recruit in various parts of the country, but I think the everyday student was typically from like a lot of students from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut.
That makes
Maine.
sense.
Yeah.
What was it? Division 2, Division 1,
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't getting scholarships going in there, but you were like, if you were good, and you were playing.
So I talked to some Division 1 schools about a couple of about baseball and football, but at the end of the day, I still wanted to play both. And I also 9/11 had happened in a few years. I went to college in 2004. 9/11 happened in 2001. And there was this, like, I wanted to go into the service.
Mm,
I thought about enlisting out of high school, and I still wanted to play sports though,
yeah.
and I wasn't smart enough to get into West Point or Annapolis, or I didn't do well enough in high school. So I just said, you know what, I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds. I might be able to get into the service, go into Norwich, and I can still play sports. So it was kind of the best of both
You got
worlds.
to do everything you wanted to do then.
Yeah.
How long were you in the service for?
And then I went into the service. So I graduated Norwich in 2008, and I went into the service just shy of 6 years. It was, I'm not going to say it was everything I wanted it to be, but
Yeah.
it was a great opportunity, I think, at 23 years old, still trying to figure yourself out. It was just, it between Norwich and having gone to Catholic high school,
Hmm.
going to Norwich and then going into the service, I think it really gave me a different outlook on the world. And I grew up in a middle class, kind of, you know, I guess I was insulated, right, a little bit
Yeah.
growing up.
Little shielded from the
Yeah,
world.
and um, I think those choices, those pretty big life choices, certainly shaped me for later on in life. And I just got to meet so many people from so many walks of life, having gone in the service. You meet people from all across the United States, people that are immigrating to the United States that enlist in order to become citizens.
That's a thing? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
No
yeah.
kidding. How long do you have to go in the service for to
I'm
become a
not sure.
citizen?
I'm not sure the details of how long you have to stay in the service in order to
Yeah.
become a citizen, but you just meet people from all walks of life.
Yeah,
And,
that's pretty cool.
didn't graduate high school, graduated high school, guys that enlisted that had gone to college, guys that enlisted that have their master's degrees and they still had a
No kidding.
desire to serve.
So you were with some older guys too that had enlisted at the same time as you.
Yeah, well, there were some guys that, were 28, 29, 30 years old that were
That's
like,
I mean,
I still wanna
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I still have this desire to do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a great experience. And then, you just, like anything, I think I was 27, 28. I was like, I kinda wanna do something else. There's some, I occasionally I look back, I think there's some regrets that I have, maybe things that I wanted to do that I didn't achieve, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, I met my wife after I left the service.
So
So
everything happens for a reason.
everything works out, right?
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I know I have a couple quite a few buddies that are career Army, and, they definitely have their, like, pros and cons to staying in that long. Like, one of my buddies just retired, he was in for 27 years, and he, like I mean, his body's destroyed.
Yeah, so
S
I still have friends that are still in the service. Specifically, my brother-in-law's my wife's brothers, are both still in the service, and, it's just a different it's a different path, I guess,
Yep,
that people choose to walk.
yeah,
The older one, who's my age, who's about 38, 39 years old, he, yeah, he's been in since we went in the same year. We went in 2008,
no
and
kidding.
we had met each other early on randomly before I ever knew my wife. He and I met each other in
Really?
Iraq. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we met each other in Iraq in, like, 2010 or something like that.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is, but I feel like that's just how the world works, man.
Yeah.
Weird situations like that pop up all the time, and you're like, "Huh," It's one of
Yeah.
those, "Oh, what the hell?" moments.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, after you got out of the service and met your wife, what was, like, the career path? Like, what did how did because obviously you didn't become president of a WinSupply overnight. Like, how did
It
that
was
whole
pretty
thing go
quick.
down? Really?
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Seriously?
Yeah, well, so back then, about 12, 13, 14 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. So if I may just explain Wind Supply, because it's different than your average wholesale distribution company in this
Yep.
industry. I think in New England, when we think of wholesale, you think of FW Webb and Granite Group and stuff like that.
Yep.
Wind's been around since, I don't want to butcher this, 1957 or 58. It was originally a couple of guys basically sitting around talking like this, and they knew somebody out in Colorado, a wholesale distributor burned down, and the founders of that wholesale distributor, they really didn't have the means to put to recoup the building, rebuild the building,
Mhm.
put inventory back in the building. So basically, they did a split, an equity split. These investors put up some of the money, but these guys had to run it. So that's kind of how the model was founded. And then it just grew from there. So Win Inc. Is basically an equity group, and they allow guys and girls to um, become presidents of their own C corporation. So we share equity with Win Inc. Every corporation, there's about 680 of us today, is shares equity with Win Inc. They manage the clunky business stuff, all the stuff that we don't love to do, that you don't
Right.
love to do.
Yeah.
The accounting and tax support, like the high end accounting and tax support,
Right.
everyday accounting stuff. We
Right. You
manage.
guys got to keep track of.
Yeah.
But at the end of the year, I'm sure they're kind of
They're
handling
doing
all the big corp
they're
stuff.
doing the big corporation stuff. And
Gotcha.
so it's different in that regard. So, all the decision making is made at our level. So 15 or so years ago, obviously there was a bunch of talent that went into the service, that went into the military.
Mhm.
And we had some struggling corporations or organizations. They weren't doing great. They weren't the best wholesalers in their market, if you will.
Especially at that time, because the market had just crashed too. So I'm
Market
sure
had
there was a
tanked
lot
a
of
little bit.
restructuring
Yeah,
going
there
on
was some
there.
restructuring. So they started recruiting military guys, Army officers and stuff like that are coming out of the service and saying, "Hey, we have this opportunity for you. There's going to be a little bit of a risk." So I got hired into that program. I interviewed when I came out of the Army in 2000, I think it was like September of 13. I interviewed with 9 different corporations, and they were my last interview.
Wow.
And it was good. It was just a good feel. It was a couple of guys. Every interview I went into, people were wearing suit and tie.
Of course.
And I walked in, these guys were wearing, like polo shirts and blue jeans and boots.
A little bit more
it was
normal,
just a
more
little
your
bit-
more your
It
speed.
was more, it was
Yeah,
it was a good feel.
Yeah.
So I trained for like 6 or 7 months at a location, and then we had an underperforming company in Savannah, Georgia, and that's where I went. That was my first Win company. 2014, I took over Savannah. So I hadn't met my wife at the time. I met her when I moved in Savannah in 2014.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how long? So wow, that is very fast.
Yeah.
So you went from out of the Army 7 months later, you're running a company.
Out of the Army in November of 13, and then I took over Win Savannah in June or beginning of July, June of 14.
Did you feel like they prepared you enough for that? Because that's kind of a big jump to just go right into that.
Yeah, I remember staring at the wall like a lot of days. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, like what decision did I make?
I didn't like there. You're gonna laugh. There was days, not days. I mean, I'd have a conversation with, a contractor like yourself, and he'd say, "I need a bundle." I'm making this up. A bundle of 1/2-inch M copper, and I'm like, and I'd have to thankfully I had Google.
Right.
What's the difference between 1/2-inch M and 1/2-inch L, or
so that's wow. So
or
you
K
just
copper? I don't know.
My God,
what's the difference,
man? So you were literally just learning on the
I was
fly.
just like, I'll figure it out for you,
right?
And then I'd use the old trusty Google machine.
Yeah,
and,
but you know what?
Start watching YouTube videos on how to install a water heater, and I started learning. So
yeah, but I mean, that's why I like you guys, and I like the way that you train your salesmen, because that's what drew me to move over to WinSupply, because you got guys like Max and Tim, who I've had on the show. Even if they don't know the answer, they're gonna figure out the answer for me. And usually, it's like the speed at which they get back to me with some kind of an answer is absolutely like incredible, because you call another supplier up, whoever your salesman is, and you ask them a question. You say, "Hey, can you do this for me, or can you get me an answer?" Dude, sometimes I'm waiting 2-3 days.
Yeah, I think early on, I just realized that if we don't respond, if it, whatever, whatever, it takes an hour, 2 days, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Um, we don't sell there's not a day that you woke up and wondered, where could I buy a toilet,
No, never.
right?
Never.
So it's at the end of the day, when you make a decision, or in that Monday morning, it's who do you want to buy it from? Like, who can I trust to get it to me accurately and quickly? And
Yeah.
because that's really all we have to go on. Because the toilet, I mean,
They're
most
all the
brands
same.
are very similar,
Right.
right? Some might function a little bit better than others, but for the most part, most brands are all the same.
Well, and everybody sells the same brand. All your competitors, for the most part, are selling the same exact thing you're
there's
selling. So
one or two brands off, maybe, right?
you got to figure out a way to separate yourself from those other guys, and you guys do an incredible job of that. I've never I haven't. I've been in the industry technically for 13 years, but I've been in the industry my entire life.
Yeah.
Growing up, going to the supply house when I was like 6 with my dad, going to FW Webb in Malden and seeing how that operated. But it's like seeing how you guys operate versus all your competitors. It's. I mean, I don't want to say that, but they should be worried.
Well, I mean, thank you.
Yeah, they should be worried.
I think that the team that's around us is that works in there, and I mean, they just work. I mean, they really work their asses off, I think.
They do. They hustle, man. I've never seen anything like it. They really know how to hustle. But like I was talking to Tim and Max about, and like you had mentioned earlier, they have a vested interest in WinSupply and how it performs because of the structure of how your corporation set up and how Win Inc. is set up at each different branch. They have a vested interest. It's like, it's not like I just work for you. Like, I'm working towards a goal that everybody's working towards, so we can all do well and succeed.
Yes, that's one thing I think that Win does right. There's definitely things like sometimes when you put as much autonomy into the situation that WinSupply is, or allow for the amount of autonomy, I should say. Sometimes there's growing pains and things that are a little bit clunky, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for an organization to just say, hey, you have to sell this at this price every day.
Right.
So there are things that sometimes it makes decision making a little bit more difficult. Like, what should I sell? How can I source it? Sometimes is a thing. Do I source it from a manufacturer? All those things. But I think to your point, the fact that I think I have 15 employees have equity in our business. So it matters. Like and that equity, it doesn't matter what Orlando WinSupply does or Las Vegas WinSupply does. It just matters
location.
how we perform.
Absolutely. And that's, I think that helps the guy. That gets fire under their ass too for them to perform better.
Yeah.
And that's why having salesmen like having Max and Tim there, it's like they come in every single day. When they come into my office, dude, it's like they got the game face on and they're ready to figure out any way they can help my business perform better, which is way different than anything that I've ever dealt with before. And I've had a million salesmen from a million wholesalers in my office, and it's like every single one of them has the same song and dance. Like, yep, I work for X Supply. This is what I can sell you. Okay, cool.
It's and I get it. Like most organizations are run just that way, whether it's wholesaling or another industry, tech, whatever.
Yeah.
Medical devices. I think it's just I think it's a fantastic business model, quite frankly.
No, it is.
And what I really attribute it to is I understand making decisions. It's made me appreciate what you guys are going through every day, right? I think, and I don't know because I've never worked in like a top-down organization when somebody's telling me I have to do this quarterly or every week or whatever the case may be. But I understand how it impacts you because I also know how I earn a living at the end of the day.
Right.
So therefore, I understand how difficult it is, right? And you're going through the same thing as a contractor. And that 15 minutes that it takes us to get back to you when it could have taken us 10 is 5 extra minutes of you keeping your customer on hold, your client on hold,
Right.
or not being able to get to a second or third or fourth call that day,
Right.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's an impact to you and your family. There's an impact to our team
Yep.
in
Yeah.
that 5 extra minutes.
Yeah, the response time is definitely
It
huge.
could make or break something,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
right?
every minute in our business counts because I mean, you guys are sales driven. We're sales driven. Now, because of the industry we're in, it's a little bit more stable than a lot of other industries out there. But it still definitely, counts when I have Mrs. Jones calling me, telling her ream furnace is broken, and I'm scrambling to try to find parts for it or find a replacement for it. And you guys are like, "Hey, we have option A, B, and C. Here's the pricing. We have it all available in the warehouse, ready to go. Call
Yeah.
us when you're ready to ship it out."
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely makes a huge difference.
Yeah, we really should, and I actually want to ask you a bit about this industry and what your thoughts are, but I think sometimes when you look at construction, especially from the building aspect of construction, so not just like the home service stuff, but
Mhm.
like the building side, I think sometimes we get to a point where it's like, that's my customer, this is my customer, this is my customer. Well, when at the end of the day, like the whole supply chain, we need to do a better job overall just working with one another.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because we're all trying to fight the same fight,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and I try to preach that to our team, like we're in the shit with you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's at the end of the day, you can't get to a no heat call like today, last night into today. We're hurting just as bad as you are,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What are you thinking for the next? I'm starting to see some changes in the industry a little bit, but what do you think in the next 5 years? With trade school and colleges and all that kind of stuff? How's
Dude,
recruiting?
I don't think we're gonna have a big. I can actually. Well, so a, a lot like how you've recruited people into your business, I've also done the same thing. I don't think that the lack of people going into the trades is really going to affect it as much as you think, and as much as all these people are saying it's gonna. With the giant gap in people retiring versus people coming in, because they're not taking into account the kids that are coming from outside the industry. They're only taking those numbers from trade schools and from, whatever trade colleges and union trade school and all that kind of stuff. They're not accounting for the chef that wants to become an HVAC tech.
Are you
Or,
seeing more of that?
dude, that's my entire company.
Yeah.
Literally the entire company. I have 2 people that work for me that went through trade school. 2 people. Everybody else, I have a chef, I have a hydroponics kid, I have a girl that was a cleaner, I had another kid that was a landscaper, I had a kid that was a roofer, I have a girl that's an apprentice for us that was a waitress. Like, dude, I typically try not to pull from trade schools on purpose. I try to get my people from outside. I like to be able to sit down, interview them. I don't give a crap if you are the most talented guy out there. I want to know that your character's good before I hire you. I could give a shit less about anything else. Is your character good? Are you willing to sit there and put in the work to learn? And that's literally what I base pretty much all my interviews off of. Because every single person that we've hired outside of the trade, we've been able to turn them into an absolute monster. Whether it's a dispatcher or it's an apprentice that's now a technician, doesn't matter.
Are you specific? Well, so you're recruiting outside the industry. Do you think that there is that there's a trend for people that aren't in the trades to want to be in the trades?
Absolutely.
What do you think fast forwarded that?
Really, I mean, dude, it's the money. If
Yeah.
you really think about it, right? I had a kid who was I have a kid who came in and interviewed with me. Granted, it didn't work out just because money obviously is a big topic of conversation. This kid was in tech sales, software sales, and he was making a boatload of cash. And I said, "All right, well, Mike, if you want to come work for me, what's your angle? What are you trying to do?" And he said, "Well, I want to be an apprentice. I eventually want to get my licenses so I can open up my own business because I understand the potential for growth and the potential to have a giant company that you can eventually either run it, hire somebody to run it, sell it. The potential to earn and create something like monstrous in our industry is a lot easier than if I was to say, "Hey, I'm gonna pick a software and I'm gonna go try to sell it to all these big giant tech companies." It just our industry allows for, really, at the end of the day, it allows for the American dream, and it's not as well, it's still hard, but it's not as hard to get into as it is in other industries.
Yeah, I mean, I think technology, just the next best thing is always coming out every 6 months or a year,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's hard to keep up with.
It is.
So, I mean, I'm not really technology savvy or driven, but I certainly see that it's, we get, like, guys will call us about, different software things
Yeah.
or AI things, and it's constantly it's hard to keep up with,
Right.
quite frankly.
But what I like about our industry is, as far as how the piping's laid out, everybody needs a toilet, everybody needs
Yeah.
heat, and then now the way things are going now, everybody wants AC.
Yeah.
So there's more homes than there are commercial buildings and businesses. And, obviously, in the way that I decided to run my business and the direction I wanted to go in, dude, if you think about it, and I did the quick math on this one time, right? So I think there's, what is it, 4,000 or 5,000 households in North Reading. Specifically, let's just talk North Reading. And this is what drove me to say, hey, let's go and tackle the home service side of things. You look at 5,000 houses in North Reading. Every single one of them has a heating system. Every single one of them has at least one bathroom. And a lot of them have older heating systems, older bathrooms, and potential to put cooling in the house, right? If you take like generic figures for what it would cost to replace all that stuff, and you look at it over the course of 5,000 houses, it's a gross revenue. Like, it's a disgusting amount of money that you could potentially earn. And when I looked at that, I said, well, that's awesome. We're going to get to help all these people, provide solutions, and at the end of the day, like, dude, I mean, you can earn as much as you want to. There's no cap.
Yeah.
Which is what kind of like drove me to say, wow, the home service industry, there's a lot more potential there than I thought. And it makes sense because you got guys like Grant Cardone that all of a sudden are wildly interested.
Yeah, private equities jumping into
right, exactly.
to home
All of
service.
a sudden they're wildly interested in home service, and because the stock market return is 8% year over year, right?
Yep.
What's the return on a plumbing business year over year? You make a 30% profit every single year. Then what, like,
Right.
like, you're talking way more bang for your buck at that
Right.
point.
Sure.
Max, can you throw up the calculator real quick and just do some quick numbers for me? I just want
Where are
you
we
to
looking?
well, it'll probably be behind us, but he can throw it up on one of the screens next to us too. This is why, when I literally just sat down one night and I just looked at the numbers and was like, oh my God, like, just in one town, having a customer base of 5,000 people is huge. And having the opportunity to do all that work in those houses is huge.
What math are you looking for?
All right, so this is what I want you to do. Figure your average boiler is probably about $20,000. Let's go with that, right? Your average cooling system is about $20,000. And then if you were to replace all the plumbing in somebody's house, like as far as the stack, drainage, all that kind of stuff, probably about another 20,000. So you get about 60 grand per household. Multiply that by 5,000 households. Let me see that number.
I think that
That's, what is that, 3 billion?
no, that's
A lot of zeros.
300 million.
So you're talking a potential earning of $300 million in 5,000 homes, right?
I'm trying to count it. Is it 30 million or 300? I can't count the zeros.
No, it's 30 million.
30 million. Yeah.
Excuse me. So you're talking one town.
Anyway.
That's $30 million to earn.
I think we're going to start seeing, as college and universities revamp and
You think they're going to start throwing trade programs in?
I don't know. It would be smart if they did. I throw it in with a business program. I think as universities, the average tuition at universities, including state colleges, continues to increase. I think.
Oh, yeah.
And the return on investment for universities, it's becoming a more and more popular topic of conversation for people, and more and more, I think there's more and more tradespeople or construction professionals that are doing things like this and having conversations about opportunities for kids that don't know what they want to do at 18 or 20 or 25 years old. I think that's another thing. So I think to go to school, just to go to school, I think that is starting to go by the wayside.
I hope so, because I can't tell you how many friends that I had that were like, yeah, I'm going to go to college. They had no idea what they wanted to do, went through college, graduated with a business degree or, whatever degree they graduated with. By the time all my friends got out of college, I was buying my first house. You know what I mean?
Listen, I'm in the same boat. I just happen to want to go in the Army. The Army was a saving grace for me.
Right.
I didn't know I knew that I wanted to be in the Army at 18 years old, and thankfully I was able to get into the Army through going through Norwich. Otherwise, I don't know what I have done. I have no idea what I wanted to do.
You may have been that kid that has a business degree and has no idea what he's doing,
what to do with it.
And a boatload of debt.
Yeah.
And come out and you're making $40,000 a year and you're $120,000 in debt, which is literally the same story that you hear. I mean, how many times have you heard that story?
It's a terrible story.
Yeah, right. Like, who wants to, and you go to it, like, if you think about it just on like a low level, even if you don't go to, say, a trade school and you get on with a company and you go to night school, what's the tuition for 5 years of night school? It's $5,000.
Yeah.
You're going to earn that in literally when you're an apprentice. I mean, what? Probably a month, 6 weeks. You're going to earn that back.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think. I think there is a little bit of a gap, right? I think you have a generation full of guys that are getting ready to retire since like 2020 to 2030.
Yeah,
maybe 2033. So there might be a little bit of a gap, but I think the more conversations that are had like this for kids that are 15, 16, 18 years old right now, in 5 or 6 years. So there might be a couple of years that it's light, but I think there's just so much opportunity.
Yeah, and I was a little bit worried about that massive pool of people retiring in the next 10 years. At first, I was like, damn, that's going to be a problem, but I mean, I can't tell you how many people we've interviewed banging down the door. And it's not like I said, it's every walk of life. I've had some kids fresh out of high school. I've had some guys that are like, yeah, I've been a sous chef for 12 years and like, it's just not for me. People definitely are seeing the opportunity more. It's good though that I feel like the overall attitude around tradespeople is starting to become a little bit less like, I don't know. I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say. People in the trades are not looked down on now, which is what I really am starting to appreciate about, just dealing with like homeowners every single day. They're starting to see more value in what we do.
I think that there were a couple decades of like, oh, you're a plumber, right?
Right.
Like there was a little bit of that.
Oh
attitude.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think if you look back, 50 years ago, it was definitely it was a respected trade, I think, throughout America. And then there was this, just such a push for colleges. And I do get it. There was a number of years that like you were truly bettering yourself by, I think, going to college. But I think it's become so like it should be like now you have to have a master's degree to be competitive to get a certain career, which is crazy.
You have to have a master's degree to be a high school teacher.
Right.
Like a high school, I think I was making the same as what a high school teacher makes when I was like a 4th year apprentice in the union. So it's like, I never saw the value in going to college growing up in the trades. It was always something even, I remember going to the Voc in Wakefield and I remember applying and going through it, and all the kids that I was in middle school with, they're like, why are you going there? Like what? Like, oh, you're just going to be a plumber? Like, well, that's stupid. And it's like, now I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, like I definitely made the right decision. Like, do I love the industry we're in? I don't particularly like the work, but I love the people.
Right.
So for me, it was like a no-brainer. And I still enjoy what I do every day, especially running the business side of it. That's something that I found that I excel at. But like, yeah, I'm just glad that the respect for tradespeople is starting to come back now, and the college thing is starting to go away. Um, because people don't necessarily understand what we have to go through for schooling and work hours and all that to get our licenses. And I talk about that on the show quite frequently. It's like, dude, we still have to do, well, at the time when I got my license, it was 8,600 work hours and 550 school hours, which, I mean, dude, that is a lot when you think about it. Like, you're probably, if you want to look at how much time you spend in college in the 4 years that you're going to college, or even call it 6 for the master's
Actual
degree,
classroom hours.
actual classroom hours, I can guarantee you that me having to have that 8,600 hours to get my license is way more than you're going to do in a classroom in 6 years.
Certainly.
Way more.
Certainly.
So, you're not going to school 40 hours a week. You're probably not even doing homework and going to class 40 hours a week.
I certainly wasn't.
Right. So there you go. But that's something that, I've had customers on occasion, they'll give me some sort of like, attitude of like, oh, well, I don't understand why you guys are so expensive. I don't understand like, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, the customer service part of it aside, like there's a lot that went
There's
into,
a lot of time.
yeah, there's a lot of time and training involved in what I know how to do. And not only am I, trained to do this job, but I'm actually protecting you with what I'm doing. And that's what I feel like a lot of people don't understand is like the sanitation side. They have no idea. They're like, oh yeah, my toilet flushes. They don't understand if we didn't have working plumbing in a house, everybody would be sick all the time. Like we got rid of disease through prevention instead of cure. They talk about that all the time when you go to school.
Yeah.
And then on the heat side of things, it's like people don't realize some people do, but the average homeowner doesn't realize how dangerous it is. If you install a heating system incorrectly, you can kill somebody like that. No problem. Carbon monoxide, burn the house down, both. There's a lot of trust and there is a lot of responsibility in our hands and a lot of training that we have to go through. And I'm glad people are starting to see that and value that a little bit more and not caring about, oh, all right, well, I got to pay the bill. Like there's way less problems. There's way less calls now, I feel like, than there was in the past. Because people are just like, you showed up on time, you did the job, everything works perfect, my heat's back on, like no complaints. I'm glad to pay. Like a lot of people are happy to pay us for that reason. I'm glad that is starting to turn because that was probably the most frustrating thing about being in the trades for the longest time is just there was a huge lack of respect from homeowners. Huge. Which I feel like there's a lot of tradesmen out there that have a sour attitude about it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because it's the same, it's the same people that are frustrated that they don't have air conditioning, right? When it's 95 degrees out.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm glad that there's a lot of people in the trades too that are starting to carry themselves in a more professional manner too, which I'm starting to see, which is great because that's the other thing. You have, there's a lot of people out there and a lot of older guys that are just like these like old curmudgeon, just like, disrespectful sort of, they have this sort of aura about them that's just like mean and nasty. And like, I never understood.
I mean, listen, it's a tough industry, right?
Yeah.
Especially in New England, in the winter, if you're depending on what side of the trade you're on. I mean, being out in weather like we're having today at, 25 degrees or 30 degrees and you're clearing a sewer line or something like that.
Or you're in the ground slamming pipe together.
I've done it. That's a tough, right?
Sucks.
It's tough. It's tough work. I do think what's great and in what I'm seeing is, this whole AI and technology push that's going on is I think this industry, the construction industry as a whole, there's definitely going to be things that are that technology impacts. But for people that still want to get their hands dirty, and even on my side, on the supply side too, there's a ton of opportunity for guys.
Oh yeah,
to have a good career in,
absolutely,
and grow. And I don't think the giant robots are going to take us over all that quickly.
No, I don't think so either. And that was a big thing that when I was in the union, that was a big topic of conversation because, we started right when I was getting ready to leave the company I worked for, had just started really heavily doing the prefab work
Mhm.
on big build outs.
Sure.
Obviously, on smaller stuff, you can never do that. Tenant fit out, you're never going to be able to do prefab, right? But on the big build outs, it was always like, oh my God, they're doing prefab now. We're just going to be monkeys that put Legos together, this and that. And then they're going to bring robots in. And everybody was like wildly concerned about it. But nobody thought like, oh yeah, well, somebody's got to run the Tremble to do all the layout for this. Like we can't just like go in there blindly and drill holes, right? And there's a whole team of people that have to do that now. And it's like, I feel like they took the bodies that were putting the pipe together and assembling all this stuff and just kind of reallocated them all.
I think the technology, or at least what I'm seeing, I think the technology is going to be more on the on like the quoting and estimate side. Like
Yeah.
you just type in somebody's address essentially, right? And AI is going to work up a heating system for you. Like
That'll
I think
be
that's the
interesting
I
to
think
see.
that's more the direction that it goes. And quite frankly, it gives you, the contractor, more time, like you can get to more jobs, right? So
Yeah.
you have two guys in the office potentially that are doing, they have to go to a job site, they have to size a heating system. Well,
Yeah.
maybe they just go do an introductory sales call
Yep.
to that homeowner, and there's a software program that they just, upload an address or upload some dimensions, and voila, that side of it's done, and they can do 2 more sales calls.
Does anything like that exist yet?
I just made it up in my head, but I am thinking
You might want to like patent that right now.
But I
before we
am
talk
thinking
about
that that's
more.
the technology, right? I think that's the technology that
Oh no, absolutely.
that what you and I thought of is like, oh my gosh, like all my drivers are not going to have jobs because we're going to have electric trucks that are,
Self-driving.
self-driving.
Right.
I think the technology is more on the software side right now, and
Which is good.
which I'm seeing like for like blueprints and stuff like that. It's learning. AI is learning like how I would normally quote like a large commercial job or a multifamily job.
Right.
And it's just learning habits. And so I just upload blueprints to it,
Yeah.
and it spits me out a quote for J. Griffin Plumbing and Heating.
No kidding.
That's more, I think, more of the technology that's happening.
Well, that's good. I like to hear that. And I like that idea that you just had because I really feel like that would be a benefit to pretty much every contractor in the country, if not the world.
Yeah, I mean, because and even from my side, like that is the thing I like to do the least is sit there and nug out quotes, right? And just like hammer out, whatever it is, whether it's a big commercial quote or even a small residential quote. Like I'd rather be, how do we make our processes better? How do we,
Yeah, of course.
how do we get product from point A to point B more efficiently? How do we service contractors better, right? So if there was a tool, and then on your side, right on the opposite side, like how do we grow Jay Griffin more? How do we see more customers? How do we do things like this more often? Well, it's all that nug work that you don't really love to do in the background.
Yeah.
That I think can be taken care of.
Absolutely. You know what's something that I would say we're missing, and that you talk to different business owners and you ask them about it, and they're like, oh, I hear this time and time again with every business owner that I've talked to, what really makes a plumbing and HVAC company successful is having process to it, right?
Sure.
Having process and having, you can go in, you can look at your SOPs, you can look at pay scale, you can look at your performance programs and all that stuff. Nobody has, to the best of my knowledge, no one has had that pre-developed, ready to go. As far as I know, every single person that I've talked to has said, no, I built out my own program for this. I built out my own thing for that. No one has just a platform that has everything, basically just fill in the blank. It doesn't exist yet, which kind of sucks because I'm sitting there right now working with my office manager, and we've been working on this for 6 months now. And we're trying to actually make sure that we're doing a good job developing SOPs and checklists. And we developed a step-up program that I'm not going to dive into too much because I don't want to give it away. But basically, it's like, as an apprentice, you go in and you do X, Y, and Z things. You get them signed off. And at the end of the quarter, you get a raise based off of the things that you've completed. And you've gone through, okay, like I'm a first-year apprentice. I've gone through step 1 and 2. All right, cool. That's X amount for a raise for the year because I've completed that and showed that I'm proficient in it. We had to develop that whole program.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing with procedures that I've found in the last decade of doing this is the accountability piece to procedures, right?
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, every procedure has to be followed through by a human.
Yeah, and
by
that
a
definitely
person,
is the
by an
biggest problem that
employee.
we run into every single
That's
day.
the toughest part.
Yep.
We do it's been a big push over the last couple of years. We do personality surveys. So I don't know. Do you do those?
We do a personality test.
You do? What
we
do you
color
use?
code our people.
What do you use?
I don't remember. I'd have to look at. I think it's called F4. Is it F4? I don't know. It's just a color code thing to say, they have 4 different color codes. They have red, blue, white, and yellow.
Yep.
And usually your blue and red are very much, your drivers and your people that are going to take charge and really be, I'm not going to say aggressive, but be more responsible with what they do.
Sure.
And then your whites and your yellows are probably people that are more or less neck down that you're going to just send out to a job site and you're going to say, hey, this is how I want you to put this together. And
they'll follow it.
They'll follow it. Exactly. But they're
Yep.
not, you can't ever expect somebody who's, all white or all yellow, majority white and yellow, to be in any sort of management position. Like, that's what we've found.
Yeah.
We've had right now we do have a kid that he is partially yellow. I think he's majority yellow, but he does have blue for the rest of it. And it makes him a good manager only because, I guess the yellows are a little bit more emotion driven.
Mm-hmm.
And then your blue is you're more on top of it. You're more responsible side of things. So it does make him a good manager because he can kind of level with people, but also be firm and say, hey, this is how we got to do it. What do you guys use? Because I heard a lot about it.
Oh, did Timmy and Max talk about
Max told me about it. He's like, everybody has to go through this personality test before we even interview them, which I thought was cool.
Well, so so we use a company called Culture Index.
Okay.
And yes, it breaks out whether you're, procedural, whether you're super autonomous and forward thinking, whether you tend to be more social. Timmy and Max fall in the social category.
100%.
For sure.
Yep.
So I'm a big believer in it. I do think that there is, basically what the survey is saying is that this is who you innately are at 15 or 16 years old.
Yep.
And this is where you would be less stressed. Like if I put you in this role. So from a procedural standpoint, I try to put, your A line is, are you just super, I'm really a high A, future oriented.
Yep.
And then Danny, for example, who's almost polar opposite of me. He's very task oriented and just by the book. I'm less and he's more procedural. He'll conform. I'm kind of
a free thinker.
Let's just do it.
Yeah,
let's do whatever.
That's how I am.
And I'm impatient too. He's super patient.
Yep.
So he and I complement one another, right?
Right.
I can be frustrated about things, and I'm I just want to focus on what's going on tomorrow. And Danny's well, we need to get this stuff done today.
Yep.
And it complements. So when I have a guy coming in, say Max took that survey and he was coming in to interview me and he was I want to be an operations manager. I'd be absolutely not. No way do you want to be an operations. You're a social guy. You want to be around people. You want to be in front of people. That's really what it's telling me. So, from a procedural standpoint and creating SOPs, are people in the right seats on the bus?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got a great team. Are they in the right seats now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is should this guy be a sales guy? Should this guy be a manager? Should this guy just be an installer for his entire career?
And that's
compensate him based on how well he does installs, how quickly he does installs, whatever the case may be.
And that's something that I have learned about my team over the past couple really months now, because I think we did the color code test for the first time in July, but it's given me a good insight on okay, that kid definitely an installer through and through, knows exactly how things are supposed to be installed, and it's cookie cutter, and he loves it, and it keeps him quiet, and he's good. Just keep him in that corner.
Yeah.
And there's definitely been some people where I'm like, oh, I was thinking about making this kid a manager, but that doesn't really fit the color code results that we got.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
no, it's I've had a lot of insight in my whole team, and it's been nice to be able to figure out what seats they sit in on the bus.
I think that's such a it's a pretty old school way of thinking. Like, oh, this guy or girl, whatever, is really good at their job, so therefore I need to put them in a leadership role because it doesn't.
That doesn't necessarily always work.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd be a terrible counter guy. Like, I would be awful. I'd be such an awful counter guy on a day-to-day basis.
could
Like,
see that.
I'm not like task oriented. Like, I'm thinking about 100 different things all the time.
Yep.
And it's hard for me to, you know, do basically the same task over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's tough for me.
Yeah.
Whereas there's some really great counter and inside guys that would be like, I want nothing to do with
Yeah.
managing people or making business decisions.
Yep.
But sometimes you're a really great counter guy or inside guy, on our side of the industry. And we're like, oh, automatically you need to go into like a warehouse management role or like an inside sales management role. That maybe not. Maybe they're just happy coming in and being a really good inside salesperson and taking care of customers.
Right.
Maybe that's exactly what they love to do.
Yeah.
So let's not mess that up.
Yeah. It definitely is interesting though, seeing the industry change because, in that regard, because I mean, I didn't even know, no one ever told me personality tests. And thankfully I have a really good business coach that I work with all the time that said, hey, I do this with my company. And he grew his company from 3 guys to 50
Yeah.
in just a short amount of time. Granted, he's a lot more aggressive and willing to take crazy risks and do things very unorthodox.
Yeah.
I would say very unorthodox because I've never seen anybody run a company the way he does. But having that, having him say, hey, do a personality test on everybody in the company and you're going to understand how to better, position people was helpful. Because before that, it was just like, yeah, I run a plumbing company and I have all these people that work for me. And this guy does a really good job at installing. So I want to make him an install manager, but he might
Or a
not.
service guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I didn't really pay any merit into that beforehand. And why would you? I mean, I have 0 business background. 0. I have no college experience. I have nothing. I literally came out of high school, was a truck driver, went in the union, did some side
Where'd you
work.
drive trucks?
PJ Dion.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I was at Dion for my entire career.
I didn't know you drove trucks for him. I knew you were at Dion. I didn't know you drove trucks.
Yeah, no, I drove trucks for him from, so I graduated high school in 2013. I actually started there. I went to Dion while I was still in co-op at the Vogue. So I did my co-op program with them for the entire time that I was able to be out on co-op my senior year, and then stayed there and drove truck until 2015. Then I got in the union, stayed in the union until 2020, and then I left. Got laid off, COVID, and we had already set up the business. We had already had the S corp paperwork done, ready to go. I already had my master's
So
license.
your dad, same thing. You and your dad started the business in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, so we were already. So he had left the gas company in 2017.
Okay.
He was at National Grid for 27, 28 years,
Yep.
but he was just like he saw the opportunity, especially. I think it was like right before Columbia Gas. He was talking to a couple of his buddies that just strictly did boilers. That's all they did, and that's all my dad ever wanted to do. So he was like, you know what? I'm sick of National Grid. I'm sick of the big corp stuff because he was on the corporate, like he was out of the union at that point and more on the management side of things. And he was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is crazy. So he left and we started installing Navians. Like 2015, we were installing Navians and we kept doing it. And we're like, all right, yeah, we're getting good at this. Like people call us because they know we know what we're doing. We did a ton of training.
Was it just you and he?
Yeah, it was just me and him. He had his brother working for him for a little while and that didn't really pan out, which is fine. But me and him. And then 2020 rolled around. I got laid off. We had this kid, Mike, working for us at the time. So it was just us 3. And then I was like, you know what, Dad, I could use an apprentice. Let's get another truck. And then before I knew it, my brother came on. And then I was like, all right, well, let's get him an apprentice. And then let's get somebody in the office. Let's get another person in the office. And then it just kept growing. I think a lot of us getting to the level that we're at right now really at the end of the day boils down to just customer service and doing a really, really good job, just like red carpet service every time is to the best of our ability. just because, like, I mean, if you look at our reviews online, like, I think the proof is kind of in the pudding. When you
Yeah,
look
I
at
mean,
that
certainly
stuff.
for, your side of the business, your side of the industry is I mean, it's heavily relied on,
Or
I mean, it's
reviews.
so easy for somebody to just pull up,
Oh yeah,
Yelp really quickly and
yeah.
say,
Are these guys
what did
good or
these
not?
guys do?
Yeah, and that's usually how people find us. Is they'll call. Well, if it's not from a referral from another client of ours, it's always, oh, I Googled you guys and saw your reviews and was like, damn, like, I mean, we are actually 5 stars on Google, which for most companies is hard to do because you get 1 4-star review, 1
It dips
3-star
at
review, it dips.
4.8.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It'll dip so quickly, and for us to have, I think we're at 336 or 338, something like that, and we're still holding that 5-star. Same thing on Home Advisor. We have 5 stars on Home Advisor too. So, like, cumulatively, we have, like, I want to say probably 600 or 700 reviews.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But literally on our side of the business, being in the home service industry, those reviews drove our entire business. And just by doing right by the client every single time, I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of how we got to where we're at.
Yeah.
And then I had to figure out the operations side of things as it
I
grew.
think business, I remember taking an accounting class like my sophomore year of college, and the professor wanted us to balance, I don't know, like a made up pizza restaurant or something like that. And
Mhm.
he wanted us to work this balance sheet out. And I'm sitting in my room, like pencil on it, like a piece of graph paper trying to do this. I'm like, this makes no sense. And then I get to doing this for a career, and like it makes more sense to me. It's tangible. Like I have my delivery trucks, I have my inventory, I have these employees, I have this warehouse, I have whatever, a bunch of computers, like I don't know, whatever's on my balance sheet, right? It just makes it so much more. It's more tangible than this made up Pizza Hut in the sky.
Yeah.
That
it
he
is
was
scary
asking me
though,
to.
because you have it all in front
I
of you,
know,
and you're
right
like,
there.
you look at your bottom line and what it costs you to run the business, and you're like, shit, like that's a pretty big number.
It's a
It's scary.
number. I know.
It is scary to look at
I
every
know.
single year, but you definitely have a very good idea of, like, should we spend $10,000 on this right now or not?
Right.
Can we do it?
Sure.
Or should we not do it? Is it a good business decision or not?
Right.
And I definitely have made a couple mistakes here and there, but
number of mistakes.
yeah, I think having a good team of people when it comes to, like, outside of the business has been helpful for me. Like, I have our bookkeeper, accountant, fantastic, business coaches, fantastic, our lawyers. We even have a financial, like, we have like an equity firm that works for us, that if we're like, hey, we're thinking about doing X, Y, and Z, what do you guys think? And they'll, go and do an evaluation of other companies and look at, like, okay, well, this is how they run their business. And they look at the whole market and are able to give us feedback on what we're doing. So, like, when I finish up my SOPs, I'm going to fire those over to them and wait for them to kind of say, hey, we want to see you do X, Y, and Z, because we think it'll be more beneficial. So having the proper team in your corner has definitely made it easier for me to run the business. Because really, at the end of the day, like, have I figured it out? Kind of. Do I know what I'm doing every single day?
No
Absolutely.
way.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I learn new shit every day.
Every day I learn something new every day.
Yep.
Yeah. Whether it's, management related or just, financial decisions that I kick myself for, or like, oh, maybe that was a really good decision. I don't know. But yeah, every day I learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Especially doing like it's very much a brick and mortar, right, business.
Oh yeah.
Super, super tangible.
Yeah.
I can go put my hands on everything.
Yep. You know that 3/4 90 costs you $2.88.
Exactly.
And you sell it for X amount. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I don't sell X number of these this month, then
we're not looking good.
We're not making money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's it's interesting.
Yeah.
Every day is interesting.
I definitely do wish on the trade school side of things, I think as a business owner, it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to start diving more heavily into the business side. Just because, like, they talk about it when you go to take your master's test, they're like, oh yeah, there's business questions on there. And it's like, Johnny's
What are
going
they?
right.
What are they like?
They're dumb. So it'll be like, oh, Johnny's going to install, you know, X amount of feet of pipe, and whatever it costs 16 cents a foot for the pipe, and he's using this many elbows and they cost that much, and his hourly rate is X amount, which is fine. And that's great. And like, do I think on a very, very low level that works? But nobody's taking into account like truck, gas, insurance, audits, all that crap. I think it would be nice to see a trade school have a more business related course when it comes to like the nitty gritty of it. Not so much this, like the dumbed down stuff is great, but like you just said, you're doing a balance sheet on a graph paper for a pizza business that you have, like, you don't care. Like, I mean, it definitely would be nice to see them do something that's a little bit more
or maybe it's
in depth.
Maybe it's something like if you become a master plumber, you start your own business, and maybe there's like a 2-year period that your business, like you work with
like a coach,
the state,
yeah,
right?
whatever,
the state or something on getting through. I see a big change for contractors in going. I don't know if the number, I can correlate it to the number of employees. It's probably that like they go from 5 employees where they're still really hands on and they're still turning a lot of wrenches to I need to jump to now my business is taking off and I need to jump to 20 employees. 25 employees.
No, that's definitely.
And how do I shift the mindset? And I even noticed it too when I was young in my career in Savannah specifically, and then when I went to Connecticut after Savannah, the change, and then from to Connecticut to here, what I'm doing every day is vastly different. And what decisions I should be making or shouldn't be making. What decisions or what things do I actually need to do every day, and what things can somebody else do?
Right.
And I think that same transition is true probably for contractors.
No, it absolutely is. You go from working in the business to on the business. And I didn't really get to work on the business until, I would say, probably the back half of 2023.
Yeah.
Before that, it was like the first 3 years. Yeah, I was in there turning wrenches and answering 90 phone calls a day and trying to like figure out, okay, oh, did we do the audit, the workman's comp audit? Do we have all the paperwork together? I get my mom calling me, asking me questions. I'm calling the insurance company, and it's just like this whole thing. Once we had enough employees and I was able to step out and stay in the office for X amount of time, that's when things started to pick up even more, and I could actually work on the business and start putting, all these different benefit plans and making sure that we had a good retirement plan set up and all that stuff. And that, I think, once I started to work on that stuff, that slingshotted us forward, because we went from, 6 employees to 17. Like, I mean, it was literally not overnight, but in less than, I would say it was probably like exactly 1 calendar year, we added 10 people. Which is, I mean, you're talking over 50% growth there, or 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So there you go. But seeing that, I think it was cool for me, because I finally was able to sit back and look at everything and go like, damn, like this thing kind of just like runs itself now. This is good.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to fall back to the, like, just doing the day-to-day things that happen in the business. When you're not used to.
Oh yeah.
Taking that next step.
Yeah. Like today I went out on 2 no heat calls, and that's all I did today.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
I got 2 people back on, and they were happy.
Right.
I found the parts and went over there and fixed it. But at the end of the day, now I'm like thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, all right, as soon as January 1st hits, we got to finish the SOPs. We got to finish the step-up cards. I want to roll out this new service plan that I'm thinking about doing, and we want to get these lawn signs and this and that. And I got all this shit in the back of my head going like this while I'm putting in an inducer motor.
Right.
Not good.
Right.
That's when I get overwhelmed.
Yeah. And you start questioning. I do it too. Like when I start taking orders and doing phone stuff and doing purchase orders and doing that day-to-day stuff, am I really doing it to the best of my ability? Like, am I really being accurate when I do those things?
Absolutely not.
No, because I'm thinking about, what customers have I not touched lately, or do we need to switch? I'm making this up, a brand of water heater.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
do I need to reach out to Charlotte Pipe about the upcoming price increase? Like, I'm making a bunch of things up.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
all I do know is that I just took an hour, and the business decisions that I needed to make,
Yep.
got pushed.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know, but I think there's great things to come with our industry.
I'd agree. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity because
Yeah.
the thing that people tend to forget is like there's more people on this earth every single day.
Yeah.
And the population is growing at a rapid rate, and there's more houses being built and condos being built and apartment buildings being built all over the place all the time. So you get that side of it, and then somebody has to service them. There's just more opportunity all the time.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's whatever X amount of contractors in Massachusetts. 50 years from now, we're probably going to need 4 times that amount. There's a shortage now that we talk about all the time. I can't imagine what it's going to look like in the future, even if we get a huge influx of people into the trades.
Rates are going to go up.
I talked to what's funny is I talk to Sully about that all the time, and Sully goes, dude, he's like, by the time all these guys retire, it's going to be $1,000 just to walk into somebody's house. And I'm like, Sully, you're probably right. I don't want to admit that he's right about that, but he's probably right. The rates are going to go up huge.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It is cool to see the industry change, and it was cool to go through the process of like being an apprentice and then going into the union, and then now seeing, starting the business, running the business, and now I'm on the other side of that. And now I'm doing cool stuff like this.
Yeah.
Very good experience, very humbling experience, and I love it.
The industry will humble. I mean, because you got to work for it.
Oh, you do. And
it doesn't come overnight.
I felt like, what's funny is I think I discredit myself a lot of the time and think that I got a free ride and like it wasn't that bad. But like it was actually pretty hard. I just feel like I didn't do a good enough job and I didn't work hard enough, but I feel like where I'm at now.
It's tough work. I mean, building anything, but building something in this industry, it's a lot of hours. It
is a lot of hours.
I mean, it's sleepless nights. It's
at the office till 9 p.m., 8 p.m.
It's tough work. It's a lot of work,
but if you're willing to put in the work, it's very rewarding.
There's a ton. There's
cool.
A ton of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brendan, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. We'll have to do this again.
Thank you guys.
So join us next week for episode 11. We are now at episode 10, so we're going to be launching all these episodes very shortly. So keep an eye out, and thanks for joining us.